Freddy's come back.
A little over 10 years ago, a man by the name of Scott Cawthon was creating his final shot at video games. After receiving some pretty harsh reviews on his latest game, Chipper & Sons Lumber Co., he decided to take the comments about the game looking a little uncanny and scary and turn that concept into a real game. And no matter if you've been living on a deserted island, in an alternate universe, or under Patrick's Rock, you've definitely heard of this name, Five Nights at Freddy's. It's a game that basically changed the shape of video game horror, from literally the biggest game catalog ever, an insane lore, becoming even more complicated because of how many books there are, a devoted fan base that literally goes insane to try to figure out the story. Five Nights at Freddy's has been around for over 10 years and will be around for many more, seeing as how many projects they have planned. It is the name that stands out in video game horror and won't die. But why is this? Well, let's take it back to the beginning. As I've stated before, Five Nights at Freddy's was made in a last-ditch effort on a game development for Scott Cawthon. It was August 8th, 2014 when this game was released, and this game changed Scott Cawthon's life forever and was probably the start of an insanity arc.
Before, you kind of start cracking, even if it's just stories that you're making up.
But it's just another horror game, right? It can't be that different. Right? Well, allow me to explain the game for you, even though you've probably heard this like a million times before. Here's how the game plays out. This game puts the player into a room with two doors, but you can only move your head in this room and click a couple of buttons. This is the paralyzation effect, and it leaves the player already feeling helpless, and that increases the scary factor automatically. There's also a power percentage that you have to keep an eye on, so you can't really keep the doors closed the whole time. That would defeat the whole point of this. Put that all in with these uncanny Chuck E. Cheese looking characters, and it's already the perfect recipe for a horror game. And you actually have to deal with increased difficulty as the game progresses through the nights. Those factors alone should be enough, but the real horror element is in the sound. It's just a very loud fan, the occasional horror ambience, the suspense risers, static, and carousel music that will make your heart drop right as you hear it. If you're thinking blurry chicken, this makes no sense. It's not scary. I've watched multiple YouTubers play this and I did not get scared once. Well, that's because the audio is what really keeps you on the edge of your seat. Take away the YouTuber's voice and put yourself in that situation, being stuck in a room, these unsettling noises all around you, then the game gets 100% scarier. So this game was something new. It was something exciting and something that had a lot of potential to expand upon, because although it was gonna be Scott's last game, he decided to fill it with mysteries like why are these robots haunted, and what is the missing children's incident? Oh yeah, and why is Freddy yellow for some reason? This game was very successful, and that made Scott Cawthon create and release a second one very quickly. But before I talk about the second game, I do want to add that horror in video games before this was not like this at all. Sit and Survive be mixed with so much horror elements, it was genius, and it was different, it was good, it was genuinely scary, and the internet loved it for that reason. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was released just a few months after the first game, and the community grew even more when this game was released. It brought new lore into the story, and it changed up the gameplay and the way the scariness works. This game got rid of a crucial aspect of the first game, the doors. But how do you defend yourself against the robots in this game? Well, you have to be even quicker to react now, because instead of the animatronics being behind a window next to a door, these guys just straight up get into your face and you have to put a mask on quickly or die trying. And if there's no doors, then there's no power to worry about, so that's something to not worry about. This game should be so easy. Just put a mask on when they come in and flash the flashlight at that withered Foxy character. And there's also a cool music box that's playing, and that's pretty nice. What was that? Now, the power percentage is gone in this game, but now you actually have to turn on your camera to wind up the music box, and if not, well, the audio in this game was also very well thought out and a main part of the horror aspect again. This game had more characters to fight off, new mechanics to learn, and a lot more lore. This game was a massive improvement. It was arguably more scary than the first game and expanded the series, which brought in new devoted fans. But all good things must come to an end, right? Five Nights at Freddy's 3 was supposed to be the last game, because this is the first game with a real ending screen. Well, actually 2 ending screens. You finally defeat and burn the antagonist behind the missing children's incident, and this should have been the end. But for some reason the fan base continued to grow at this point, and with still a lot of mysteries behind the lore, this obviously was not the end. So now there's Five Nights at Freddy's 4. This game was the product of an itch from Scott Cawthon to create a scarier game, because even though FNaF 3 was supposed to be the end, the fan base made it clear that it wasn't scary enough. They wanted something more scary. So Scott Cawthon decided to finally end the series again and create a scary game in the process, because a corpse hunting you while you're stuck in a room wasn't scary enough, apparently. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is deemed by the fan base to be the scariest game in the franchise. Even Dawko, one of FNaF's biggest YouTubers, said it's the one game he hasn't beat more than once because it changed up the gameplay so much. The audio is genuinely the most important aspect in this gameplay. You play as a kid in a room trying to keep the nightmare animatronics out, but if you're not careful, in my opinion, the scariest jump scare of the series plays. You have to play with your audio all the way up, basically, to not make a mistake, but in return, if you mess up, your ears start bleeding. Thanks, Scott. This was a genius, but not a genius way to end the franchise. I mean, ending it off with a box that no one knows what's in, that's crazy talk. And we still have no answer to what's inside that box, by the way. Even Scott said he forgot what's in it in a recent interview with Dawko. Anyways, you know how this goes. Five Nights at Freddy's 5. After MatPat basically solved Five Nights at Freddy's, Scott Cawthon simply said no and decided to make the lore of the series even more complicated. This game brought in so much more and allowed gameplay in a whole new way, finally bringing in professional voice actors and not having you be paralyzed the whole time. But you know how this goes. A new game had to be made, but this time not just because the fans wanted more. They low-key needed more, because if not, they would have gone insane, because you can't end the story off with a loose end like this.
It's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be. They thought I was you, and I found her. I put her back together. I should be dead, but I'm not. I'm going to come find you. I'm going to come find you.
Pizzeria Simulator is disguised as a decoy. It was the first game to be free. The reason it's free is because the sole purpose was to give a satisfying end to this story. And in the fashion of the third game, you burn down the establishment you're in, and you finally set all the souls and characters where they belong. Again, this should have been the end. It had such a cool ending too. Like, listen to this.
This place will not be remembered, and to you monsters trapped in the corridors, give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, old friend. It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.
But of course, this wasn't the end. And I could go on and on about the new entries, the new books, and the new lore that they add, but that would be kind of lame. There's this VR game, this mobile game, and this broken game. Side note, in no relevance to the topic of this video, I love Security Breach so much. I was like 13 when this game came out, and to this day, it still has some of the best memories I have of this game series. Let me show you some footage.
What? Roxy, this way. This way. Get into the fire. Get into the fire. Yo, bro, get it. Come on, get into the fire. Yo, you're broken. Oh, yo, what?
This game is just so broken, buggy, and confusing that it can't even really be considered a horror game. It's just hilarious, and I love it. Oh, and Ruin was pretty cool too.
Why is my game lagging? What the?
Try it again. What? He's so quirky. Look at him. Oh my god. Oh, am I supposed to be here? I glitched the game a little bit.
I can make a whole video essay about Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, but let's get back into the topic of this video. So why does Five Nights at Freddy's refuse to die? Well, the answer boils down to two things: the expansion of the series and the fan base behind it. Five Nights at Freddy's has one of, if not the most devoted and crazy fan bases on the internet. I mean, look how much fan content there is of the series. It is genuinely unfathomable how much time some of these people have devoted into the series, and honestly, it's really refreshing to see a community so passionate about one thing that they truly love. There's so many videos on YouTube talking about theories, let's plays, and there's even fan movies. If you take a look on sites like GameJolt, there are quite literally endless amounts of fan games, which means more money for the YouTubers posting FNaF content, which in turn keeps the game series even more relevant. It's so interesting because you can't really see that happening in other communities other than FNaF. And with some fan game creators, they actually have an opportunity to make games in the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative, which basically means that they can make a fan game that actually costs money. More money means like more everything, because money runs the world, or makes the world spin. I forgot how the saying goes. My point is, Five Nights at Freddy's has such a devoted fan base that just absolutely loves the series, and so much happens in the series, so they're rarely ever left bored. And you'll never get bored if you subscribe to me, so subscribe, because I make video essays about video games. Check them out after you're done watching this. Anyways, let's continue talking about the series. It's still ongoing in many ways, from a couple of series books to movies finally being made, even though the first one had people a little disappointed. Not me though. I was in the theaters with my friends Michael and Brian. Like, holy, they have Sparky the dog. That means that Sparky is canon in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. And Michael was like, oh hey, did you see that purple suit that Max got stuffed in? Bro, that is so cool. And Brian was like, well, Brian was just being Brian. I don't really know, man. He was just there. It's pretty funny. I'm actually really excited for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie too. Anyways, yeah, books, movies, and new games like FNaF Into the Pit that was just released, Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic coming next year, and another project that Scott Cawthon has stated won't be announced for a while. Five Nights at Freddy's keeps expanding, and honestly that's pretty cool, because it's a lot of people's favorite franchise that they have been growing up with and have been a part of the community for most of their life, and it still has somewhat interesting lore. Even though Security Breach kind of made it a little weird, it just has so much going for it, so it won't die, hopefully. I hope this doesn't age like milk. Also, Five Nights at Freddy's kind of started a whole new genre, if I'm not mistaken. This is called mascot horror, and new games like Garden of Banban and Poppy Playtime fit into this description, having mascots and horror. But like baby horror, this is a huge difference from Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Yeah, this is not scary at all. Five Nights at Freddy's changed the horror genre and stood out amongst so many other games and game series. From a last-ditch effort of game development from Scott Cawthon to one of the most famous names ever in the topic of video games, Five Nights at Freddy's won't die. And it's pretty cool to see a series ongoing, even after recently surpassing 10 years of existence. So happy birthday, FNaF. Can I please see Freddy twerking out? The robot, not the... Thanks for watching all the way through. If you like this type of content, watch my video on how and why GTA is an immortal game series 2. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time I upload, whenever that is.